by our children as they're growing each and every day. At this time, we will have our ushers come forward, and they will collect our tithes and free will offerings. The Lord bless the gift and the giver. At this time, we will go into our main topic for the day. Who here among us are runners? Who can run? I see a runner in the back. I see another runner. Even Dan is a runner. Oh, is there another one? Okay. We'll have another special music in the back at the end. So I see Brother Dan is a runner. I can imagine his stride length. It's long. And then we have Gracie and one of our visitors. Anyone over here run? Nobody runs over here. Brother Simeon may run a little bit. Anna says he's a runner. So the topic today for our sermon is on running, and it's not something that maybe a year ago I would have had much interest in, or maybe a year and a half or 2 years ago. But as time goes on, I don't know, you get older and you try new things. So I tried something new. And my wife and I ran a back in May or June, something like that. You know what, that was pretty fun. I thought, you know what, I have a little bit more gas in the tank. I could have done better. So you think as a middle-aged, soon over-the-hill male, that you would be limited, but no, you have new limitless abilities that you can pursue. And as I ran and ran and ran some more, I got the brilliant idea with my wife that maybe we'll sign up for a half marathon. Because you know what? We were born to run. We are meant to run. There's an amazing video on YouTube of different animals racing, okay? And you can look it up. It's a human versus a lion, ostrich, wolf, cheetah, camel, and a horse. Who wins the race? At 5 kilometers, it's the horse, it's the cheetah, I think it's the horse. Cheetah? Can't remember. Someone else has watched this. It's a great video. Then at 10 kilometers, but this is a 100-kilometer race. Who wins that race? Any ideas? It's the human. It's what made the human the greatest hunter on this planet for thousands of years, because they wound the deer, they track the deer, and they can outrun the deer in a long distance. Not in a short distance, but in a long distance. And even to recent times, tribes in Africa, they simply run their prey into the ground. Now, as tribes and times are changing and we don't have that type of human anymore, as we're all more sedentary, the ability to run like that has decreased. But even today, there are races where you can run a 100-kilometer race against a horse. And there are times that humans win that race. So while a horse is fast in a short distance, over 100 kilometers, humans are winning these races. So it's pretty amazing. In the way we are designed, we seem to be born and designed to run physiologically. It's hard to believe because a lot of us are sedentary, aren't we? We sit around a lot, we have desk jobs, we ride in a car, maybe we're active enough to ride a bike. But the way our body is designed makes us a lot more able to run, especially a long distance, than many animals that are far faster than us in a short period of time. So, as my wife and I embarked on this journey of figuring out what to do with our lives, something new, we decided we would start to run. And since May, I have run over 500 miles, my watch tells me. 500 miles. It's 609 miles from this point to Kansas City. So one more month of running and I would have made it to Kansas City. It's a pretty long way. And I have done over 84 hours of running since May. 84 hours. Pretty impressive. How are we able to do this? And how can we make it applicable to our life today? We're going to go into a little bit of interesting things, some cellular biology today, of what makes me 2 years ago different than what I am today, and where all of you can run, and your abilities today may not be what you are in 6 months, and they may not be what you are in a year, but we can dramatically change ourselves on a biological level, all because of this one thing here that resides in our cells. Does anyone know what this is? This is a mitochondria. And anybody who's taken basic biology, they know what this is. It's pretty basic stuff. This is, we always would say the buzzword is the powerhouse of the cell. It's like the nuclear reactor for the area, or the coal burning thing, the coal burning plant where they have the electrical generator. These mitochondria are in all of our cells. And if you have here a picture of the cell, up here, you see the nucleus and where everything is working, thinking, and then you have these two mitochondria in those cells. And those two mitochondria, they do something called produce energy. And when every cell produces energy in your body, that energy can be used for cellular functions, but then for muscle movement, for all kinds of processes in that cell. And in this particular slide, there's something called cellular respiration or cellular breathing, and it shows two things. I can have glucose, which I eat every day through my food. It gets broken down, and I get sugar in my blood. And that sugar gets stored in places like my liver and my muscles in the form of glycogen. It's a storehouse. And long-term stuff may be stored in fat. And eventually the time comes when I need to use my stores, like let's say in an activity, an exercise. And that glycogen can get broken down, or even the glucose that's floating in my blood can get broken down, and they can go through various cycles. You see the Krebs cycle, the electron transport chain, and these are all amazing things for a runner because they produce huge amounts of energy. So again, basic biology, there's two forms of respiration. Aerobic, meaning requiring oxygen, and anaerobic, which is another form of energy generation. And when you have a runner, their development of their aerobic respiration is optimized. Okay? And as you see here, these little shiny starbursts, these are all the currency. This is like the money of energy. Okay, 2 ATP there, 2 ATP there. And at the end of oxidative phosphorylation, I get 32 ATP. This is amazing. It's like massive payday for the cells. Where on the other side, the anaerobic, the one on the far right, this is a very inefficient way of energy generation. Notice you get one little ATP there. It's not very efficient, and in the end, you get lactic acid formation. And this lactic acid, it's what you feel when either you're working out, lifting weights, or you're running, and you start to feel that burning. All that gets stuck in your cells, in your muscles, and your body has trouble clearing that, and you feel miserable. So that's the anaerobic. That's when you're pushing yourself so hard that your normal mitochondrial functions are not working, and you're burning through a dirty way of making fuel for your body. These are the two forms of the way we process energy in our body. So what does that apply to running? This is the biology, right? Well, a thing I learned, because I knew nothing of running, I never was a runner, is there are zones to your heart rate. And I understood that. But whenever I would run in PT or whatever, they say go around and run around the track, and I would just take off in high school, and I was different back then. I was lighter and younger, but you would hit this, you're exhausted. And why are you exhausted? It's because you've burned through all your ability to do your aerobic, and you're shifting to anaerobic, where it's highly inefficient. So where my wife and I, we've been playing around and practicing and running, we realized that there's something called zone 2 training. And you look at your heart rate, you calculate your max heart rate, it's 220 minus your age. So everybody has a different appropriate heart rate, different maxes. So 220 minus your age in years gives you your maximum heart rate. Then you divide that up into percentages. So if you exercise in a zone between 60 and 70% of your maximum, that's zone 2 training. Then I further learned that you should be practicing at all different points of your zones to maximize different things. But something very, very special happens when you're in zone 2 training. You start to develop something called more mitochondria. So overall, you're not destroying your body, you're not exhausted, you're not cramping, you're not burning, but slowly you get more and more mitochondria built up in those cells. And the mitochondria are able to better turn the Krebs cycle and the oxidative phosphorylation, and you get more ATP, and then you can run more. By and large, when you're training for a long distance race, you want to do zone 2 training. And you need to do it for a long time. It's hours, it's miles. But as you start to do that, you realize that, you know what, I used to run this pace with a high heart rate, and now my heart rate's coming down, and I can actually run faster with the same old heart rate. Suddenly I'm becoming more and more fit, more and more able to tolerate this. And when you're in zone 2, you're so efficient in burning fuel, you burn fat, you burn glycogen, you're not burning the dirty fuel of lactic acid all the time. Now, I hope I'm not losing half of you with fancy words, but in the end, other things happen. You also change the type of muscle you have. You start to develop type 1 muscle fibers, which actually they themselves metabolize lactic acid. So even there, your muscles are better at clearing out some of the dirty fuel you may get when you're tired. And over time, you start to become what you want to do. And suddenly, at one point running a mile seemed very hard. Then running 3 miles seemed very hard. Then we were frequently doing 45-minute runs, and we felt, oh, that's fine. We're only tired when we do the hour-and-a-half runs. And then my wife's Garmin watch was making her run 2.5 hours. And I thought, wow, around mile 10, I really get tired. But there is a surprising change you have over the months. So we made an interesting decision and decided to sign up for a half marathon, which is 13.1 miles, and we've run 13.1 miles before, and we think we can make it just fine. But imagine those people that run 26 miles, full marathon. It's impressive. They are changed over time. What is the difference between a long distance runner and a short distance runner? Well, here you can tell. On the left is a gentleman who's a sprinter. You see what kind of muscle he has? He's built for speed. Not very much oxygen efficiency. He's a dirty burner, but he's powerful and he's fast. The guy on the right, he burns very efficiently. He's like, I don't know, your 40-mile-an-hour car, 40 miles per gallon car. He just goes forever. And he's one of those guys, one of those Kenyans that can outrun everything, every other animal, outrun a horse at 100 kilometers. So over time, your cells change. Over time, your body changes. And though it's imperceptible, you are able to adapt to the goal. Everyone, no matter where they start, can adapt in some way. I don't think I'll ever run a marathon, we'll see. But to this point, I have adapted, and it's been a very fun experience. Has anyone seen these? And this? I noticed when I get around 6 or 7 miles, I would crash. And then I realized, I shouldn't run on a fasted stomach first thing in the morning. I need to be taking these gels. Have you ever tasted this stuff? Okay, somebody has. I think you in the back. Have you tried this? This stuff is interesting. Sometimes it makes your stomach feel like it's going to die. But I'll tell you what, if you practice this just a little bit, this one's actually made out of honey. I like it. And I drink it before I know I start to burn out. I get an injection of energy. It's all about managing. They've made this a science. It's about managing your body, managing your calories to give you the energy to have endurance. Brothers and sisters, I'd like us to look at Hebrews 12 today, because Hebrews 12 talks to us about an endurance race. And there has been some form of appreciation that I have gotten in Hebrews 12 and some of the verses I will read today because of my experience, though it is not much, it has grown with running a longer race. So let's turn to Hebrews 12 verse 1, and it says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us." So I would just like to break down this verse just a little bit. Laying aside the weight which clings so closely. What does that mean, to lay aside the weight and the sin that clings so closely? What does that mean? Now, when you look in the ancient Greek times, the runners would come to the race with all their clothes and flowing robes and all dressed up, decadent. But when it came time to run the race, they would largely lose all their clothes, largely everything. If there was something on, there wasn't much. Because all those flowing robes, what did that do to them? What did that do to their performance? It slowed them down. Any ideas? What are the darling sins or weights that we may have, that I may have, that you may have, that cling so closely? How will you run this race? Any ideas? Just throw out a couple things from the congregation. If we don't know what is slowing us down, how will we run this race? Part of it for me was weight. I lost some weight running because the more weight you carry, the more work you have to do. So some of that is body composition, but it's also what you're wearing. What are the darling sins everyone in your head, I want you to think, what are your darling sins? What are your most loved sins? The most secret things that could hinder you from running the race that God has given you. That is how we can take this verse and make it applicable to us. Yes, it's fun to know the Greeks ran naked. Okay, fine. But what are the darling sins? What are the clothes that I may have on myself that are going to prevent me specifically from running this race? And my problems may not be Vadim's or Daniel's or Brother Karvatsky's. We each have our own unique set of tendencies that we are weak to. Tendencies that we are more prone, traps that we are more prone to fall into. In Romans 6:14 it says, sin will not be a master over you. This interesting quote from John Piper, it says that on a pad of paper, and I think all of us should do this when we go home, we need to write down the seemingly innocent weights and encumbrances that are not condemned explicitly in the Bible, but which I know are holding me back from the race of faith. Write those down. What are your particular things that are holding you back? Here he lists computer games, hidden alcohol, candy, certain types of magazines, novels, TV shows, certain musics, people you're hanging out with. Everyone has tendencies. Everyone has tendencies that are just right there waiting to ensnare them. And if we're not aware of these tendencies, we're not going to be able to effectively run that race. You know, it's interesting when you run a race, your weight really matters. I know a cyclist, and he actively loses 15 to 20 pounds of body weight before his race because he wants not a single pound of anything weighing him down more. He tries to lose as much fat. I mean, he looks like near a skeleton before he rides his bicycle race. But he does not want a single ounce holding him back from his goal. Is this how we are approaching our Christian life? So let us identify the pet sins, identify the pet hindrances, and write them down. Homework for today. Next, it was run with endurance. So I have an idea of running with endurance till at least 13.5 miles. I've run that far. That's the endurance I can comprehend. And it's an interesting run, but it is not something that is over strong in the beginning and then peters out in the end. It has to be paced. It has to be paced properly. And Paul here in Hebrews, he speaks about running with endurance, and these people in this time, they had a very good understanding of this. And we'll look into the history behind the race at the time of Paul and around the time of Christ. But I want to bring up a story here about an endurance run. And it puts the rest of all the endurance runs into perspective. Does anyone know who this is? Kathrine Schweitzer. She was the first woman to run the Boston Marathon. Now, what's interesting about her running with endurance? While she was running, there was a guy, the race manager, trying to rip her number off and push her out of the race. So not only are you dealing with your own fatigue, you have someone actively trying to rip you out of the race because it's not appropriate that women run in a race. Can you imagine? Brothers and sisters, in our lives, is there someone trying to pull us out of the race? Like this woman. She's running and that guy in the black suit is telling her to get out of his race. Here it says, that's what race official Jack Semple screamed at Kathrine 50 years ago as he tried to remove her bib. I was blindsided by it, Kathrine says. I was terrified and yelled for help. But she says, I realized he was a product of his time and that he would learn. The guys who were running were all very supporting. And that meant that the world to me, that meant the world to me. But I wondered why other women weren't running. There were other women who could have run, but wouldn't. What did Catherine do? Not only did she have to finish her race, but there was somebody trying to pull her out of the race. That's when the eureka moment came. And she says here that she realized that other women would be there if only they had the opportunity. So by the end of the race, I was resolved and I had a purpose. So where was Catherine's gaze as she ran this race with endurance? Where was her gaze? At first it was to finish the race. At first it was, why is this guy pushing me out the race? But then she had a moment in her mind and she realized that, you know what? I have a greater purpose than finishing this race. A greater cause. Because she realized there were no other women here and she wanted other women to experience this. So she looked and she saw there was something bigger than just her happening here. Brothers and sisters, where are we in our race to look? Catherine first looked to the end, to the finish line, but then she looked beyond, something bigger, something greater, that maybe other women should run like me. Where should the Christian look? Hebrews 12:2, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. That's where we are to look. That is the bigger thing. That is the bigger thing. That is what Catherine realized in her race. We too, in applying to our race, you know what? There's something more than just me here. And it's interesting because if you look at Hebrews 11, that's the Hall of Faith, and that talks about all the great runners before us, right? The great athletes. But you know, you're not looking to Abraham and Joseph. You're not looking to all the martyrs. You're looking to who? To Jesus. Who are we looking towards, brothers and sisters? Hebrews 6:19 through 20. We have this as sure and steadfast anchor of the soul. A hope that enters into the inner place behind the curtain where Jesus has gone as the forerunner. Where Jesus has gone as what? As a forerunner on our behalf, having become high priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. Brothers and sisters, the runner of Paul, or the runner of Hebrews, who ran that race first? Jesus. In fact, in the ancient Greek races, usually at the finish line was maybe the winner from last year, if he wasn't running again. And he would be there. So you would look, as you are nearing the finish line, you're looking ahead and you're like, that is what I want. The goal of the one who has won before me, or run before me. And in this case, as we see here in Hebrews 6:19, Jesus is the forerunner. We are to look and live. Look unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. Hebrews 12:3, consider him who endured for sinners such hostility against himself, so that you may not grow weary or faint-hearted. In your struggle against sin, you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood. How do people train? How do people run? When there are people who take this to such a level that they're running ultra marathons, 50, 70 miles, and they're bleeding out of their shoes. This is hard to see here, but I have ChatGPT. I said, I want a picture of Christ carrying the cross with blood on the rocks. He has run the race before us, and this is what they made for me. He has run the race before us, and he resisted to the point of blood. When you look at commentators on this point, they say, you know what, this is in many ways a reference to, okay, the cross, Christ dying on the cross, but also this is a reference to the great drops of blood that he shed in his anguish in the Garden of Gethsemane. Are we struggling to that point, brothers and sisters? Or have we forgotten the exhortation that, you know what, we are his sons and daughters? Have you forgotten the exhortation that addresses you as sons? My sons, do not regard lightly the discipline of the Lord, nor be weary when reproved by him, for the Lord disciplines the one he loves and chastises every son whom he receives. You know, when I was in training, there was an anesthesiologist who would always nitpick this and nitpick that and nitpick anything and everything I did. He would nitpick it all, and it was so annoying. And then you know what he told me? He's like, you want to know why I nitpick all this stuff? It's like, because I care about you. I want you to succeed. But when I see there's no hope in you, I'm just going to leave you alone. That's how it is for Christ with his children. Because we are his children, there may be some trials because we are following his way. There may be some trials. There may be some discipline. It's because he loves us. Some random person running down the street, do we go and discipline them? No. It's because who the Lord loves, there may be some discipline. Brothers and sisters, in the race of life, are we willing to pay the cost? It's not just the miles. It's not just the hours. It's not just getting your stomach used to some of these things. In the Christian life, are we willing to pay the cost of following Christ? What does Christ say in Luke 14, 25 through 33? He says, count the cost. When we run the race with Jesus, we are to count the cost before we sign up. But the marathon of the Christian life is not mainly loss. It is mainly gain. For the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross. It is only a matter of timing. If you see things with the eyes of God, there is a vapor's breath of loss and pain, and then everlasting joy. 2 Corinthians 4:18. So Hebrews talks a lot about the runner. We've read Hebrews 12, 1 through about 6. And I will tell you that whole chapter is beautiful. In fact, at the very end of the chapter, talking about how we are come to Mount Zion, it's almost as if you're finishing the race and you are there. If it's a long distance race, sometimes it's from city to city. And it's a beautiful chapter that I recommend everyone read. But Paul said some other things in 1 Corinthians 9:24 about running. And I want us to look into a couple of these statements that he made. 1 Corinthians 9:24 through 25. And he ties this really into a true Greco-Roman race. And he talks about only one person receiving the prize. Now we know in the race of Christian life, that prize is available to all who finish the course. But we need to run as if we were running for the single prize, because we are running after Christ, okay? And it says here, do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one receives the prize? So run that you may obtain it. Every athlete exercises self-control in all things. They do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable one. So do I not run aimlessly. Where's Paul going? Well, you know, sometimes when I would run outside, I don't know where I want to run, but I'm bored of my old path. So I would run aimlessly, sort of, and then I would get lost, and then I would end up down a hill, 700 feet elevation drop that I have to run back up, and I run longer than I ever wanted to, and I burn myself out. Paul knows where he's going. He does not run aimlessly. Paul disciplines his body, and he keeps it under control, lest after preaching to others, I myself should be disqualified. Brothers and sisters, this statement here is strong. There are preachers who may not finish this race. Paul himself was afraid that he himself would be disqualified. At times, in another place, I believe Philippians, he's afraid that he may run in vain. Let me not run this race in vain. Brothers and sisters, are we looking into this? Are we looking to Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith? Are we wondering that after we preached all these reforms, all these things, dress, health, all this stuff that we think is so important, that we ourselves could be disqualified? Paul speaks of a story that happened maybe 600 years before him, of the first Olympian, you could say, or the first Olympic runner. And this was in the Grecian time when Alexander had taken over much of the then known world, and his 4 generals split up the empire. But the Greek culture was kind of like the United States. It just enveloped much of almost anything in terms of everyone spoke Greek. Everyone liked the Greek culture and words, and the Greeks were obsessed with athleticism. But there was once a story, and it's turned into a legend, and parts are argued to be real, and parts are argued to be false. But the legend of Pheidippides back in 490 BC, and what happened was the Persians were coming to war. The Persian Empire was expanding, and they had their eyes set on the city of Athens, and they were mobilizing their ships and sailing for Athens. And when the Athenians in Greece realized what was happening, these city-states were all very broken up, and they had these weak alliances. So Athens was kind of like philosophers and thinking people, not really good warriors. But they knew they had brothers. About 150 miles away were the Spartans, and everyone knows the Spartans, they loved to fight. All they did was fight and kill. They were born to fight. So the Athenians sent a runner, his name was Pheidippides, to run to Sparta and say, come, bring your armies, save us from the Persians, because the Persians are going to come and they're going to destroy everything. And this is where the story of Pheidippides, or the legend, happens. Pheidippides was a, let's see if I know how to say this, hemerodromos, also known as a professional runner. These were not like athletes. This was like a military thing. And they